Hey, Christian. Hey, it's
Hey,
been a
Gabe.
pleasure speaking with you. Heard so many things about you for all these years, and
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
hey, you know what? Not a problem. This guy named Ben Bateman keeps on talking about
Ah,
this
yeah.
show, telling me to check it out, and I finally checked it out this morning. And wow, you guys do actually have something on your hands, especially the fact that I didn't know you guys been around for 8 years.
Yeah, no, I know it's isn't that strange because the space that we all play in, and you forget how incredibly big it is, and you forget how incredibly small it is, right? It's like there's we all know each other inside of the space, but then like you said, here's this thing that we've been doing and going across the country to do all these events and things, but yet you're like, wait, what is this? And that's kind of that's obviously what I want to do. I want more people to know about it because we have been started as a segment the show when we did the Schmoes No Show, myself and Mark Ellis. It was just a segment that we did like a bit to do live and see how people would like it. It was like a 15-week tournament or something that turned out to be a lot of fun, and we did it for teams the following year, and people liked it. And then once I went over to Collider, we started doing like weekly, and that's when it really took off.
Wow. Now, when did you guys came to the decision of doing these shows live in person?
So my old talent manager, Jonathan Picciarello, who started to do live events over at Full Screen, he and a producer named Megan Sanborn had a meeting with myself and Mark Ellis when we were at Collider, and they said, "How would you guys like to do the Schmoes No Show, like on the road? You guys, they were working with creators that would take their show and their podcast like live in front of their fans and stuff." And I said, "That's fun." Mark and I came from the stand up comedy background, and that we've done stuff. We'd love to do stuff like that, but I always thought that the Schmoedown really worked as a live event. And so we ran a bunch of them in 2018 in Los Angeles. And the goal was let's run a few in Los Angeles, see how we do. And if we think that it works, and my instinct about this thing is right, that it does play in a live audience setting, then we start to look if we can take it around the country. And that's exactly what we did. We sold out all of our shows in LA, and then we decided to look at the Roulette Theater in Brooklyn. And the idea of the show, for people who don't know, it's yeah, it's movie trivia, but we never wanted to do like a bar trivia, right? We always, because right away when you think it's like, oh, it's just movie trivia. But at one point, someone said, well, it's just video games. Esports can never be a thing. At one point in history, someone said, oh, it's just someone catching a ball. Football will never be a thing Henry cares about. And it became a thing. So it's like, if you take it seriously and your audience sees it, then it can be a thing. And we combined the elements of trivia plus having an actual show and focusing in on characters and personalities and heightening it. I wrote for the WWE eons ago, and I always took things from there and added it into this show. That way, when you go to a live event, there are moments that you take in. I want you to feel like you're at a UFC event when you go. I want you to feel like the energy. I want you to, even though it's like, I can't believe I'm like all jacked up, like I'm ready to watch a fight, but I'm just watching somebody answer what the first movie Spielberg ever directed was, like, and that's what we wanted to do. It was for the movie lover, it was for the sports lover, it was for the wrestling lover, and it was for people that just wanted to watch people do what they can't do. Like there's my friends came to a Brooklyn event and they watched Dan Murrell play and win the championship, and they said, I didn't know a damn thing that guy was answering, but I couldn't stop watching because I just wanted to see what he would get right next.
Did the format change from your basically your online or in person show to the live events?
So it started out, the show itself always started in studio, right? So when and the answer to that question is in 2014 it changed dramatically because it wasn't meant to be what it is today. It was just meant to be a bit. So it wasn't as organized as it wasn't taken as serious as it was, because we were literally picking numbers out of a hat at the end of the rounds, like whoever's baseball hat they were using. All right, let's do it. But once we got to Collider and started to develop that in studio, those matches, that's when it started to become that it's always been the show, the in studio stuff. Then the live event is similar to the studio format in the same way, but the difference is that there's a crowd. But what we've had to do over the last 2 years, obviously, is pivot dramatically because of COVID. And what we did was we then took it to the digital era, and it's been tough. It's not the show. And when you have the digital side, it definitely feels more like a trivia contest, and it's hard to not, as much as you love it and take it seriously, it's hard to not tune in as a new viewer and go, those are two people answering in front of a computer. But we've been lucky enough, to go back to Scum and Villainy Cantina, where JC Reifenberg has been so generous to let us shoot some matches there, and obviously where Kevin Smith shoots his show from. And we have been putting on some really good events, and we just had another singles championship match over the weekend. So it's, the energy is back, and once we're going to eventually just eliminate the digital side of it and just do in studio and live events.
Where do you find the personalities, to participate in your programs? I mean, I was just randomly, picking out some of your videos. Saw the one with Perry versus Ben, and I saw Perry yesterday. So it's, yeah. Are these all like friends, or are they basically film journalists? What's going on here? Everything.
So it started out in 2014 of people that were on the show, and with a few friends like Katie Sackhoff from Mandalorian and Battlestar Galactica. She was one of the first competitors in the first tournament. Bonnie Somerville from Heels and Friends, and she was one of the first people inside of the first tournament. When we did the second tournament, I said to Mark, let's open it up a little bit and let's reach out to friends, but let's reach out to people inside the business, and let's get Rotten Tomatoes versus IGN, and let's get Nerdist, and let's get Collider, and let's get Screen Rant. Let's get all these people. Let's open it up. And we did that, and that was just for the first two tournaments. And then once we opened it to Collider and we began doing weekly, I wanted to reach out and get people who, whether they're actors like Sam Levine, people who were in the space that we knew, that knew about movies and wanted to be involved in it, because it's different today than it was back then. Because back then it was a matter of me saying, hey, I have this thing that I've been doing, and I'd love for you to check it out. Now, for example, we have a championship match coming up that we're airing on pay-per-view tonight. And Ethan Irwin, who is the president of Silver Pictures, and he is the current champion. He's going up against a woman named Marisol McKee. The Marisol is the first woman to play for the championship, singles championship, since Clark Wolf in 2018. If she wins, she'll be the first woman to ever win the singles championship. If she wins, she'll be the first African-American to ever win the championship. So she came into the league through being a fan. So she was watching online. She was at a live event. Her ex-boyfriend at the time raised her in a Q&A, said, hey, she's going to be really good. And she was mortified. She said, shut up. And then it turned out I had a conversation with her. She played in the fan leagues, which were these leagues that the fans had created because of the Schmoedown. And I would go and watch and say, oh, that person's got a personality. We opened up open auditions to have people from all over. We have people from Australia, Canada, like all over now, and people who were fans of it. So it was a mixture, to answer that question, of fans of the show, colleagues, actors, people who have heard about him. Who Paul Walter Hauser just joined this year from Cruella, and obviously Richard Jewell, Chris Van Vliet, who is a wonderful reporter, who's got his own YouTube channel. Doug Benson, Chris Jericho. There's so many people who have joined. Brittany Young have now joined up because they heard of the Schmoedown, wanted to play in it, and then there's other people like Adam Collins, who was just a fan, who wind up winning the tournament last year. So we have an array of different people who have joined. That's a very devoted fan base. What do you think is the secret to why these people are coming back and wanting to be part of it? Passion. And like I said earlier, no matter what it is in life, and it's something my dad always taught me, no matter if someone else says that's silly what you're doing, if you treat something like it's the most serious thing in the world and you believe in it, then those people who are watching will feel the same. And I think our audience, my favorite comment that I get from our audience is when they look at it and they go, I never understood sports before. I was never a sports fan, but this is my sport and I get it. And that's what I think that Schmoedown has given people. And even and not just those people who didn't like sports, it's for the people who did love sports but also loved movies, and those people who love wrestling. There's something there for everyone, and it's theater. And there's certainly, I see the comments all the time like, well, I'm not really into the story stuff, I'm more into like just the trivia itself, because they're movie fans and they like trivia. And it's a mixture of all of that. And the game is challenging, and because our competitors care. That's the major answer, I think. Our competitors care, and they put everything into it, and you can tell. And there's emotional responses that come when someone wins. And when if I just told you and you never saw it before, and I said, okay, it's so and so is these two people are playing, and then someone wins a championship and they're crying, and you're like, and I tell you about that, you're like, well, why? It's just they just answered a question about trivia. But when you watch it, you get it.
No, I did. I watched a few episodes, and I think it's just the format that you guys actually use. It felt like you guys almost make it look like it's like a wrestling with blending with trivia and so on. And these guys are personalities, which is terrific.
Yeah, but, that was definitely the point. The point was that, because I think that if you just make a trivia game, eventually people will go, okay, well, I watched a bunch of people play trivia. But if you make it personalities playing a trivia game, then you're like, oh, well, Mike Kalinowski's playing, I want to watch Mike play. Oh, Mara Kanopic's playing, I got to watch Mara. And now, like Marisol McKee, who is just, as I just mentioned before, she just captured the hearts and minds of everybody in the Schmoedown community. You just never know who your next big star is going to be.
Now, all of this is just for bragging rights. You guys ever considered like doing prizes or anything else?
There's prizes. Our competitors are paid. They have contracts for each season. It's not right now. It's not groundbreaking, shatter the earth type stuff yet. As we continue and we move on. I mean, as you said, yeah, we've been around to 2014, but calling it what it is, it's still a baby. I mean, it's for what we're doing now and the things that we're doing, being able to speak to people like yourself to get the word out, to let more people know about it. There's continuously more stuff that we can do, but there is a prize at the end of this year, because in 2020, in the beginning of it, we implemented a structure into the Schmoedown for a test. And it was putting in a draft, free agency, having managers, trades, all that stuff. And this season, it's for a cash prize. And what happens at the end is that we have T-shirts for each faction. There's 8 factions. So every time someone buys a shirt, a percentage of those profits go into this pool, and the winning faction splits that profit at the end of the season after the most points come. So there were definitely bragging rights and stats and legacy and all that. There's no doubt, but each competitor gets paid per match, and then there's a cash prize at the end of the season. It's changing up dramatically next season, but there's still going to be there's still monetary things that the competitors certainly get, and managers.
Oh wow, it sounds like it's like running a real wrestling network for yourself. That's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was kind of what I wanted to do. I mean, we have shirts, we have merchandise for certain competitors. I mean, there was, so just an example of well, I mean, I've been talking about Marisol enough. Marisol McKee, her moniker is Lady Justice, and she's becoming more popular. And we have a great artist named Brian Ward who's been doing our graphics forever, and he did a design. And it's just, she comes in with the kind of the blindfold, and on the shirt, it's just her kind of standing on the side pose with Lady Justice across the blindfold. And it's a popular shirt. It's doing very well. And she gets, and she gets a cut of that merch the same way that a wrestler would on side of it. So it's definitely built in that wrestling model for sure.
Now behind the scenes, because I think also some of the enjoyment is as audiences, we could actually watch and participate in our heads of what the answers are too, and all this kind of stuff. But behind the scenes, how do you come up with a lot of these questions? I mean, do you have like a team of interns? What's going on, or do you do it yourself?
No, I would not be able to be here with you right now. I'd be pounding my head against the garage if I was doing it myself. We have a team of writers. We have a really good, not interns. So we have a hired team of writers. We have a head writer, PJ Campbell, who's been. We had a writer who did it for a long time, Chris Skalicki, who was our head writer, and he had a few people, but at the time we just, we didn't have the budget. And something else I didn't mention that I should have mentioned right away is that one of the main reasons we even flourished more so is in 2020 we partnered up with Skybound Entertainment. and Skybound, obviously from Invincible and Walking Dead and Robert Kirkman's company. We partnered with them, and we have it's been night and day on what we've been able to do with the production team, and in general, you know, we have the budget where we can hire the writing team, have his writers that he works with, and they're constantly working. Because remember, we have 4 different divisions. We have the singles division, the teams division, the inner geekdom division, and the Star Wars division. And we're in tournament season right now, so the writers are constantly, I mean, they're so hardworking. The audience is very protective of the writers. So even if you ever see like a competitor take a shot, there's actually a rule, and there's an official rule book. There's everything. You know, it's so far past, you know, what it like. So a lot of the questions, and fair enough, the questions that you're asking to where if you ask like in season 3, if like, yeah, well, we kind of found a friend who's kind of helping out too. This thing has become so much more involved now, and is so much more structured that there is an official rule book. There's the writers, the managers, like all of it. We're gearing up every day to become. What we want to do is I want to sell out Madison Square Garden. You know, so there's so much that we want to be able to do with this thing that we're on the move to do. We just had a great sponsor with Captain Morgan that we were very excited about. There's other people that we're working with at more and more as we get the word out. So that's all it is. It's just about getting the word out and getting people to know exactly what it is that we're doing over here.
So you're saying like down the road, you're hoping to like fill out, you know, stadiums and arenas, maybe like esports arenas like the one in Las Vegas someday.
That's right, 100%. Because I feel, and I think it's maybe just the stand-up comedy background in me, is that I always, when I was my home base was the Comedy Store, and when I would do the original room at the Comedy Store, and I would go up in front of, if there were 15 people in the room that night, I would say, would this same energy, this set, this joke work in a different energy with 200 people in the room, 300 people in the room, 1,000 people in the room? And there's no difference here. It's like, okay, so a couple of people answering questions in 2014, and the energy is right. I'm like, okay, if tweaked, could this work in front of 30 people? Then you bring 30 people into the studio to watch, and they're all hooting and hollering and going nuts. And then it's like, okay, well, is it going to work in front of 300 people? And then you sell out the roulette in Brooklyn, and people are screaming and yelling. And after Dan Merle won his championship in 2019, the crowd broke into a "You deserve it" chant that you hear all the time in wrestling, and they broke out to it, and they weren't prompted. They were invested in it. And I was like, if 300 people can do it, then 3,000 people can do it, and then 30,000 people can do it. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. If it's movies, people love movies, people love sports. If they get past the idea when they first initially hear it, oh, people playing movie trivia, and tune in and see it, we'll do it. It's just a matter of when.
Are there limits to these question categories that you guys actually come up with? Like for example, I'm not sure whether you like cover anime or anything from the silent era, you know, that kind of stuff, because, you know, yeah, we're talking about movie knowledge. It's like encyclopedia upon encyclopedia here, like
100%. 100%. I mean, look at some of the people that we have in this league. Talk about encyclopedias: William Bibiani, Alonzo Duralde. I mean, Scott Mantz. There were a lot of these people that were encyclopedias of movie knowledge. But because of that, we also want to make sure that other people have a chance, right? And this is not just about knowledge in film, because it's a game as much as it is knowledge. Because that's why there's a 5-pointer, a 3-pointer. There's things that you can. There's strategy involved. There's a way that like people like you mentioned Ben Bateman earlier. He is known as like the Moneyball strategist of the game. He knows how to maneuver and pivot and say, okay, I know that so-and-so's weakness is animated, so I'm going to put the animated wheel slice on the wheel in hopes that they get that, and I'm going to study it the night before because I know the wheel, and I'm going to study this, and this. And there's a way to try to knock your opponent back, right? So as far as what's covered, the singles and teams division is overall film knowledge. So stuff like anime and stuff like the classics and silent films. Absolutely, there's been Charlie Chaplin questions. There's been other things that have popped in there over the years, for sure. Not as often, and there's more. I don't want to say modern. We certainly ask stuff from like the 40s and the 50s and things that pop in there, but we also want to include the audience in on it too. Sometimes, certain times that we want, and not that audience doesn't watch movies from the 40s and the 50s, but like there are wheel slices, and so people could put classics on it. Or that we just had a match recently, James Stewart movies came up, Audrey Hepburn movies come up. So there's a lot of different movies in those divisions because the singles and teams are so broad and it's overall film. Inner geekdom is more movies like Jurassic Park, Planet of the Apes, Star Wars, Marvel, Star Trek, DC, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff. Harry Potter, it all pops in, and that's a very specialized division. The Star Wars division is the one that gets tougher all the time because there's questions that come into the Star Wars division that are, even though there's a character in the movie that his name is never said, but it's still known in one of the books. That's fair game in this because they've run out of stuff. So it's like, what's the bartender's name in the cantina in episode 4, whatever it might be. And you got to know that. And there's stuff in there that's like, that's a tough, that is the hardest division in my opinion.
Wow. That is certainly amazing. Well, let me start wrapping things up, because the thing is that I do know is that you have upcoming live events, that audiences could check out. Could you talk about them?
Absolutely. So October 9th, we're going back, as I mentioned to you earlier, with the roulette. We've been there a few times. It's very near and dear to my heart. The theater's great. The people who own the theater are great, but I'm from New York. So going back there the first time was very special to me. And every time we've been there, it's been very special. And we've had great events there. So may I ask when this would come out, so I'm worried about spoilers?
Oh, we could put it out whenever you would like. We could put it out this weekend if you want.
Okay, so then I will do a spoiler then, because the pay-per-view airs tonight. So I had mentioned to you Marisol McKee and Ethan Irwin. Ethan Irwin was dominant champion and had beaten Dan Murrell, 2-time champions. He's undefeated this season. He played against Marisol McKee, who I told you what accomplishments she was going. It is a scrap beyond belief. Back and forth they went. Marisol McKee became the first woman and first African American ever win the championship, and she got a 3-minute standing ovation after she did it. It was incredible, and she goes on to play in the main event in New York and Brooklyn against her faction mate Chance Ellison, who was a 2-time teams champion, never won the singles, looking to get his first. So they're on the same faction and they're playing one another. A lot of emotions going to be on the line, as well as bragging rights, and the winner will go on to play in the Spectacular, which is our other live event that I would mention in a moment. But the undercard of Brooklyn, I believe that you would know, is Josh Horowitz, and he's playing up against Griffin Newman. And Griffin Newman is Orko and Masters of the Universe. He was Arthur on the Tick, and he is a character times 1,000. And they're both undefeated rookies. They're both 3-0. This is the second round of the tournament. The winner will go on in the third round to play rookie Paige Forbetti. So that's going to be a massive match. But then the main event is going to be Lady Justice Marisol McKee, the defending champion, going up against Chance Ellison, same faction. Now, December 4th, which is our equivalent of our Super Bowl, or the big game, I should say, or the WrestleMania. It's 5 matches. All the titles are on the line, and there's one special match. It's an all-day an event. We do an expo where you can meet all the competitors. You can play trivia at the expo itself. And then all the titles are on the line we're doing it at the Globe Theater, which we've done before, and it's a blast. And all the tickets are on sale at the schmoedownlive.com if you go and check that out.
Wow, that is actually pretty awesome, Kristian. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure speaking to you about it. Audiences will look forward and look forward to the live events, and I'm assuming we're going to follow COVID protocols for now.
Oh, 100%. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Absolutely. Everybody needs to be vaccinated, full protocol. We've been very, very, at the Scum and Villainy Cantina is where we've started implementing it first to, get back on track. And absolutely, safety is not only for our fans and for our competitors, just in general. So yes, absolutely.
This is terrific. Well, hey, it's a great talk with you, Kristian. Hopefully I get to talk to you again when after the championship or the next season starts, and we could do this regularly. I would love to. Where are you located? I'm located in California, Fresno, California. You got to come to the Spectacular. I know. Ben's trying to get me down there. So many times for the live events. He said, "You got to check it out. You got to check it out." And I said, "Oh, when I'm in town, I'll check it out."
Yeah, I'll get you tickets to the spectacular. You should come.
Okay, I will. Yeah, not a problem.
Awesome.